Welcome back to Live Impact News here on St. Patrick's Day. Happy holidays, everybody. And we are joined on this St. Patrick's Day by none other than Tim Fitzwilliams. If you're a regular viewer of the show, you know him, you've seen him, you love to hear from him. Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Of course, I knew you'd have a little green in your tie. I was 100% sure. You're always on top of it with the fits, and so I knew on St. Patty's Day you'd have a little green going on. How's your holiday so far? Thanks for doing a little extra work for us on the holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. Enjoying it. Yeah, I've got quite a few speaking engagements today, but I love doing it, right?
Okay.
So it's always fun when you love what you do.
Fantastic. Now, I'm assuming out of all your speaking engagements, this one is by far your favorite.
Of course.
Always.
Yes.
Always. Now, throughout the last 2 weeks, the last 2 Tuesdays, if you will, that you have been here, we have spoken about the war in Iran and how that can impact markets here back at home and how people can adjust to those markets. And I think a lot of people would naturally expect for us to touch on that again as the war continues over in the Middle East. However, you and I spoke a little bit before the show, and you kind of indicated that from your perspective, from what you guys do at Fitzwilliams Financial, what you're focused on, not much has changed from that standpoint. So I just wanted to get that out of the way first because I know people would expect us to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, not much has changed. Yeah, we do feel the same, that it's like a midterm problem / solution needed. We're not looking at this being a very long-term model, right? The biggest concern we have is people trying to push change in their portfolio, trying to, if you will, time the market. And that's the advice I'd really give is now's not the time to try to time the market.
Yeah, and we've talked about that quite a bit,
sure.
Right? Trying to time the market and the trouble that can get you into, right? And so continuing to emphasize that point, even in the midst of evolving geopolitical situations, even in the midst of an evolving market, trying to time the market can always be difficult to do. Now, we are in the third month of 2026 here. I know that's kind of shocking to let soak in, but St. Patty's Day means we're more than halfway through the March. And so we want to talk a little bit about when you kind of observe how people have set themselves up financially here in the new year, in 2026. What are some of the big mistakes that maybe you've seen that are unique to this particular year, these first 3 months?
We haven't seen a lot of mistakes, but we've had a lot of questions around timing the market. And we were just talking about it. That's not what we want to do. And I think you have to look at it. It's kind of funny, but in a serious situation, but sometimes you have to kind of get good analogies that make sense. It's like shopping for a generator in the middle of a hurricane. It's too late. And so what I'm really trying to say there is that if you're trying to make adjustments right now today in your portfolio, trying to time it off of events or headlines that you see, it's too late. The idea is to talk to a fiduciary, talk to someone that you're comfortable with that can help you make adjustments relative to your risk tolerance prior to any type of storm or volatility that you may find in the market. That way you're prepared when you go in and you're not shocked by the things that may happen.
You can't go backwards and change the decisions you've made in the past. All you can do is try to make the smartest ones going forward.
Absolutely.
Now, we know that inflation is still a major factor here in the United States, as it's been for some time. Groceries, housing, insurance, of course, now energy and gas as well. But sticking with some of those core purchases that families have to make every single month, realistically, what should people be looking at in terms of an emergency fund right now, especially with the understanding that they have to spend more on those daily needs than maybe they would have in other years?
Yeah, you're right. There is that inflation. We're also blessed and lucky in the sense that if we look at the data, the corporate America has actually taken on about 70% of those tariffs. We're only seeing about 30%, give or take. So that's actually in our favor, but yet there still is inflation, and yet there still are rising prices in certain things like you're talking about. So when you talk about the emergency fund, you really want to kind of look at your current situation, but if you just wanted to have a rule of thumb, 6 months of your bills saved up is a good rule of thumb. Everyone's different. That's why I said you want to look at your situation. If you have a lot of pensions coming in, you have to be less concerned because you have that constant stream of income, right? If you're retired. But if you don't have that going on, right, then you may be more concerned and you want to have that emergency fund maybe a little bit more robust. 6 months isn't always what people are comfortable with, but it's a great place to start.
And when we think about an emergency fund, emergency can be a broad term. What do you consider to be an emergency that is worth dipping into that fund? What is that used for?
Yeah, that's a great point. It is a broad term. Connor, you're right. And truthfully, it's not really used for emergencies. It's really more for the unexpected things that occur and not having to come up short on your bills because your transmission went out or you need to get, a roof done or some windows replaced. Things that are expensive things relative to your lifestyle that you just can't pay for out of cash flow. Those are the events that we're talking about here, right? And when those events occur, you want to have a place you can go that you can grab the money. And you don't want to affect your current investments. You don't want to stop that compound growth. So you want to have an account that's not really invested in the market, that's just a checking or a savings that's sitting there that you can access. And again, we think about 6 months is the right about number. It's not really science as much as it is more feels on that one.
Right. This is not, I budgeted poorly, so now I can dip into my emergency fund anytime I want and rectify those mistakes. This is things that happen that are out of your control that you could not have foreseen coming. Being able to have that cushion is helpful.
That's right, but unfortunately, sometimes what you said first happens.
Sometimes it happens.
It all starts with budgeting. That's a really good point, Connor. Yeah. It all starts with proper budgeting so you can understand what you should have left over so that you can start to build a surplus. And it's those little micro decisions that gets us into those problems. Did I buy a car that was a couple hundred more a month than I should have? Having someone help you on that journey to make those financial decisions, I think, is imperative.
Yeah, and this is obviously the time of year when those tax refund checks are starting to come.
That's an excellent point.
And who doesn't love getting that check in the mail? And so I guess the first question I want to ask is, would you suggest when someone is laying out that budget, that yearly budget, or that monthly budget even, do you suggest they treat that tax refund as a part of that budget? They say, oh, okay, I'm going to incorporate this and I'm going to adjust my expenses accordingly? Or should that be something separate, almost something that they consider to be a bonus that is not a part of that budget?
No. I think that's a great question, and it can be answered in a couple different ways. First off, it should not be part of the budget. It's extra, right? As far as where it should be spent, it's probably best to go to things that have high interest rates. Right? There's not just debt. I don't want to say that, but maybe you have some credit cards that have higher interest rates. That might be the place to put it. But even beyond that, Connor, I think a lot of people don't understand this. You can adjust your tax withholdings so that you're not getting that refund at the end of the year. I mean, yeah, emotionally it's cool to see that check and it feel great that you got this extra money, but let's face it, most people spend it on something that they've just always wanted. And there's something to that. It's great to accomplish that. But wouldn't it be better, instead of loaning the government that money and not getting any interest rate, right, having your cash during the year so it could be earning you money, right? So you can adjust your withholding allotment. Now, you need a professional to help you out with that, but you can adjust that so that you can have the cash per month. Then now you can accelerate payments on that credit card or debt at a better rate than just having this lump sum at the end. And in the end, you'll be most likely, 9 times out of 10 would be my guess, you'll be in a better position if you were to treat a refund like that. So look at maybe getting an adjustment so you don't get a refund.
Yeah, and you led us very well into our next question here, which we talk about things with high interest rates. Credit card payments certainly qualify for that category. If someone is carrying credit card debt, is there any strategy that would help you maybe get that debt down faster? I know the basic thing is pay it off as soon as possible, but how can people manage that if they're not capable of getting it down immediately?
Excellent question. And let's start with understanding how powerful interest rates are. If you have a credit card and you have 15% interest, 20% interest, did you know if you didn't have that balance, it's like making 20%? You see what I did there? If you're not paying it, then you're keeping it, right? And you're making the 20%. Right. So it's extremely important to understand how much leverage you should have. But to your point in your question, if you do have the leverage, what is the strategy that's the most effective way to pay down that debt? And so it's coined in the industry as the snowball effect. And what is this? You look at all your credit cards and you say, which one has the highest interest? And once you've established the one with the highest interest, you say, now this is hard for people to digest because it's against common knowledge of what you should do. You're going to pay the minimum, right? So I'm going to repeat that. You're going to pay the minimum on all your credit cards except the one with the highest interest. Now, since you're paying the minimum on all those other credit cards, you have extra cash, right? Guess what you're going to do?
You're going to get that one with the
put it
highest
on the
interest
one.
down.
That's right, on the highest interest. And that's going to be a force multiplier going onto that card with the higher interest so that when it's paid off, you're going to free up more money. You repeat the same logic, the minimum, find the next one, the next highest interest, apply all the excess cash there, and that's going to snowball and create a compound effect so that you're going to be able to pay down your cards at a faster rate of return.
Yeah.
That's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game, is handling this in a smart way, right? Trying to do it as efficiently as possible. And we completely recognize that sometimes you just do not have the resources to do something like that right away, to get that debt down immediately. So if you employ some of these strategies, like you just said, maybe that can help you manage these things. Now, that seems like that is a piece of advice that could apply for people to do right now as soon as possible to try and make sure that they're set up for the rest of 2026. Give me something else like that. Give me another strategy in that same realm that would someone can do this month to help set themselves up for the spring and summer that's to come.
Sure. I think it's important, no matter how much money you have and know how much you make, you should always have a budget. You should always understand how to do a budget. And a lot of people just think, well, here's my bills, these are my expenses, this is what I bring in. But what a lot of folks don't think about is, how much am I spending on for fun? How much is going to Amazon? How much is going to Starbucks? When you actually analyze that, believe me, I've done that. I was shocked to see what my wife was spending on Target and Starbucks. I love you, honey, but that's what it is. It's a fact, right?
Yeah.
So really getting that information and seeing it for yourself. What you can do is you can say, I have my bills coming in, so I'm going to pay that with this amount of money. What I have left over, I'm going to put into a different bank account. I love this strategy. I call it the fun account. I've talked about it in my book. I've talked about it in various places. I really like this, man, because you can get behind it no matter how much you make. So you put that excess money in the fun account, and then you go have fun. And guess what happens, Connor, when that fun account goes to zero?
And then you got to calm down a little bit on the fun. You got to tighten the belt. You got to start reinvesting in there. Right.
No overdraft, protection. None of that on that fun account. The whole idea is for you to recognize and realize that, wait a minute, I ran out of my fun money. And guess what? Your bills are paid.
Right.
You didn't mess things up. You ran out of the fun. So once you can identify how much your fun account is, then you can say, well, I know what I have left over. Am I spending too much in fun?
Yeah.
Should I take more and maybe add it into my investments? You can really get an understanding of your financial profile. And I feel a lot of people don't do that. They'll be like, oh, my bills are $5,000, $10,000 a month, and I make this much a month, and, I don't really know where the money goes. Because you got, birthday parties, whatever your life may be, right? Just daily events, travel, whatever. And everybody's definition, this is why people get confused, everybody's definition of all those things are different, right? Someone might spend a couple $100 on a birthday party. Someone might spend a couple thousand on a birthday party. Someone might take a $500 vacation. Someone might take a $50,000 vacation. So really analyzing what you're spending on that for fun, and then separating it from your bills, I think, is one of the best things you can do today to help get ahead of your budget and start putting money away for your future.
I could sure go for a $50,000 vacation, but your point is very well taken. And another thing, that I think maybe is good to apply when you're doing this budgeting is, I know for myself, early on when I kind of was looking and making those budgets, I made a budget that I thought would fit every month. And then I realized that January, February, early March, kind of all the way through March, my expenditures at restaurants, my expenditures on trips to the Virginia Beach oceanfront, or maybe trips to Buckrow Beach, going out at night on the weekends, those were a lot lower in January and February and March and even April. And then as it got warmer outside, springtime, summertime, spending a little bit more time with friends and with loved ones, spending a little bit more time going out to eat or going out and going to the boardwalk, and you're buying different things and you're hitting the shops and stuff like that. And so make sure that you're aware of the adjustments that kind of come with the seasons. The start of astronomical spring is this week on Friday, and so knowing that some things about your lifestyle might change, and you have to make sure that your budget is set accordingly if it can be. Either that or say, well, I'm just going to be strict with this no matter what season it is, and I've got to pay a little bit more attention so that we don't get to the 25th or the 26th and I'm out of that money, and so then I can't go to a birthday party or on a trip. Right. So like you said, different for everyone and different for different times of the year as well. All things to look out for.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Different times. Christmas. That's another one, right?
That's right. That's right. The holidays come around.
And that gets put into that.
You're buying a lot of food.
The sad part is a lot of tax returns might go to pay off the Christmas credit card. So you're right. Getting a handle on the budget, looking at it from a month to month and over an annual to try to figure out where those spikes are is a great idea, and it's something you can do. It's something you can do. You just have to take the time to do it.
Lots of little tricks, and like you said, it just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of organization, a little bit of discipline, and you can kind of help improve your financial future this year and beyond. Tim, we will see you at 4 o'clock on 13 News Now, as always.
Yes, sir.
Wonderful to have you here, sir. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Same to you.
All right, Tim Fitzwilliams from Fitzwilliams Financial. You can catch him. We get him one Tuesday a month here on Live Impact News. We get him every Tuesday on 13 News Now at 4. We appreciate Tim coming in as always.